All right, guys, so today we are going to be making yogurt, maybe just about the easiest way to make dairy yogurt that I can think of. Even though I have a resident scientist with me, we're gonna do the cheaty kind of quick way. So we're gonna start with our quality milk source, right? The difference between store-bought, just, no fancy brand yogurt and homemade, there's a lot of differences. A big one is the bacteria, right? So we're looking for this probiotic rich food that's going to really just remake our microbiome and help our gut health, which is going to help the rest of our health. And another one is the quality of the milk, and it's really challenging to know where the milk came from in your yogurt, and so this way we get to have a little bit more control. And we want happy cows, right, that haven't been stressed out and been made to overproduce, haven't been given any kind of growth hormones or antibiotics to mess up their system. And so we've got this nice organic, crunchy granola milk here that we're going to start with. And can you pour that in here for me? Mm-hmm. So we've got our crock pot. My crock pot has a really stable temperature, which is really going to be important. If people can't see what you're doing. There you go. Which is going to be really important if you're making yogurt in a crock pot, because we're not doing all of the fancy, taking the temperature and measuring how hot it gets and all those things. Ideally, when we're making yogurt, we want the temperature to get up to between 180 and the boiling point, which is
212 degrees.
Very nice, good job. But since we're doing it in the crock pot, we're kind of guesstimating, which has, how traditional yogurt maker people probably have done it for a long time. So we have our 6 cups of really good for you kind of milk here, right? And then eventually we're going to need 1 tablespoon per cup of milk of our whey that we got from the very best yogurt we could find, right? Our full fat, organic, really didn't have any sugars added or anything like that that's where we got our whey from. So how many tablespoons of whey will we need for our 6 cups?
6.
Oh, you're so good at math. Okay, so can you turn it on low, please? And pop that lid on. We're gonna let this sit for about 2 to 2.5 hours for our first kind of getting heated up. Because when it comes to yogurt, basically what we need to do is heat it up, cool it down to the right temperature, get the starter in there, and for this batch, it's going to be whey that we made from home. And then it's going to be let it ferment, right? We want to get it all kind of wrapped up and cozy and kept at a solid temperature. And I'll show you how we'll do that in a minute. So, 2.5 hours. You probably need to stand here and watch it the whole time. So I'll set you a timer, 2.5 hours. Don't move, don't blink, or it's gonna mess up. Okay. So that's step 1. Then we're gonna let it sit on the counter. We're gonna turn it off, unplug it, and let it cool down for about 3 hours. This is where the guesstimation comes in. Normally we would, I will probably, check the temperature. I really want it to be between 105 and 110 degrees to get a good culture. So after about 3 hours, 2.5 if I'm getting nervous, I'll check the temperature and make sure that we're in the sweet spot to get the culture added. Okay?
Okay.
So 2.5, you're gonna watch it, right?
Yes.
You promise? Okay, and then we're gonna unplug it and turn it off. And then you need to watch it for another 3 hours.
Okay.
So that's going to put you to about 9:30 p.m. Is that going to be okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't, no breaks, right? You're not getting paid for like a 15-minute check your YouTube or anything like that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Here we go.
Bye.
Ian gave up on me of standing here after about 45 minutes, so gosh, children these days. But almost exactly 2.5 hours on low in my crock pot resulted in 190 temperature, which is perfect. So I'm going to turn it off and let it cool for 3 hours before I stir in the whey. So my assistant totally bailed on me. Kids these days, no work ethic, right? It's only 10 o'clock, dude. What's your problem? And he was like, I am tired. So turns out I'll be finishing this yogurt on my own since we started it at a ridiculous time of day, but I knew I wanted it to ferment overnight because I'm gonna stick it in the oven with just the light on, but I'll get to that in a minute. So we hit the perfect temperature at exactly 3 hours. So it took 2.5 hours to reach our good temp on low in the crock pot. And then it took 3 hours unplugged and turned off, but still in the crock pot, to cool down to that sweet spot between 105 and 110 degrees. It was literally exact. So I have a couple cups I've separated into this bowl, and I have my 6 tablespoons of whey that I'm gonna mix in really well. It's like any kind of making a roux or a soup or anything like that, where you just wanna integrate it. Jello is what comes to mind, which is terrible, right? But you really want to integrate it into a small piece, and then you incorporate it into the whole. So we have our 1 tablespoon per cup of milk. And then we're gonna mix it really well in the large batch. So the reason, so I typically make 2 batches at a time. I use one for just yogurt. We have milk thistle granola, we have Anytime Crunch, which is actually like a grain-free kind of, anti-cancer awesome type of granola mix with nuts and seeds and really nutrient-dense things. So I use one for actual yogurt purposes. And then I use one for to create whey for the next batch, and to make cream cheese, because when you sift the whey and the cheesecloth, right, you get cream cheese as the layer on the top, and that's awesome. Even for my kids that have some dairy intolerances, which we address yearly with an elimination diet, they don't seem to have much of a problem with this homemade yogurt. And I think a large part of it is because the fermentation process is actually the bacteria eating and breaking down the lactose. I don't have kids that are allergic to casein. They don't have a true allergy, but they have this lactose intolerance that causes some GI upset. So I've got this whey mixed in here nicely, and here's what I'm really gonna do. I'm gonna stick the lid in. I'm gonna wrap it up in this towel, nice and snug, and I'm gonna chuck it in the oven overnight. No heat on the oven, but I'm gonna leave the lamp on, which is about a 60 watt, I believe. That's gonna keep it at a little bit warm of a temperature, so it can have kind of this slow ferment. And about 8 to 12 hours is what we're looking for. I actually have a professor that talks about her different students and clients who have practiced fermentation of yogurt and creating their own, unique styles. And her favorite one was a lady who would actually put her yogurt, just like this, on the shelf of her hot tub, the little shelf where the knobs are and things like that. So it's still inside with the lid on. It's obviously not in the water, but I don't have a hot tub, so I have to stick it in the oven. So we're gonna let this bad boy sit all night, and then we'll check in on him. It's a him. This yogurt is a he. We'll check on it in the morning. All right, so our crockpot / stuck in the oven with the light on yogurt has been chilling out in the oven, wrapped all cozy in this towel, for about 12 hours. So we're gonna take a gander and see how she looks. It actually was surprisingly warm. Not hot by any means, but I think a really good temperature. I was just surprised at just with the light on how toasty it was. Oh yeah, brilliant. We have an awesome, I'll show you. We have an awesome thick and creamy yogurt. It smells divine, and this was insanely easy. I can't believe how perfect the timing was between 2.5 hours on low, 3 hours to just chill, mix in our whey, stick in the oven overnight to keep warm or in kind of a warm location. We're all bundled up in my bath towel. So that's a really easy way to incorporate probiotics and prebiotics into your life with just a little bit of whey, a little bit of milk.